One.
Both.
Okay.
So that should be working properly. Gonna pop my stream up here as a plane flies over, nice and loud. I should close the window actually. Hang on. Hello. Today, I will fly a piston engine plane at 500 feet over a city. Why not? Anyway. Open up our notepad. And get started. All right. 318. 19 responses. Overall.
19?
19 responses, apparently.
Can you refresh it?
20 responses. Here you go. A bit more split this time. Overall length, 3/4, pretty good. All right, first up, TIO Industries. Okay. So for the most part, doing okay. Some a little lower. Priest is popular. Reverse consent for BP increase. Some good points here. Some commentary on the F3 issue that we encountered where the reskin had 1 or 2 settings just slightly wrong, and it resulted in them doing way too much damage. Fortunately, that was fixed. It was a bit of a clerical error. Should have been caught. Should have been tested. I agree. Removing some of the extra PD due to the need for it dropping after the shell HP got yeeted. We do have a lot of point defense capable stuff. PDX and T2 gimbals, plethora of other kinetic PD, and remove the apes. Let's see. Priest needs to be set to advance to account for its own grid's momentum when moving and shooting at missiles. Always pretty hesitant to set things to advance because it tends to do things that aren't quite intended. Overleading, underleading. It's a bit up and down. Reaver, increase the point. Salvo. Quite the comparisons. You'll have to forgive me for skimming over this instead of reading it out, but line by line. It's quite a lot of good stuff here. Yeah. Just a lot of really nice specific data, which is good to see. Peacemakers, the vertical launch tubes that fire the unguided rockets, have quite a bit of deviation. Personally, I found them to be fine, quote unquote, but not quite competitive. T2's popular. Not seeing much of a need for T1s. That's fair. Yeah. Just an overwhelming wealth of feedback here. Can say probably come back to some of this later, as there's quite a bit more to go through. But overall, got a excellent base here to tune in. Vanilla weapons, been contentious for a while. Railgun is probably the only really light thing out of this pack. The rest of it is more or less meh, which I tend to agree with. Uh, 50 weapons to GT2, 90 weapons now. Yep. This is something we will need to be discussing. Fixed guns hold promise. Got the LBX2. What about the Inner Sphere AC2? All seems well. Railguns get to use a bit of a buff. Really. Now, is that on their own in a vacuum, or is that in total? I would question. Not a whole lot of really nice information and specific stuff up here, so kind of hard to make a point on it. Mark it down for later. Specifically. There we are. North Heavy Industries. These ones are a bit more interesting to talk about since the battleship cannons have been moved from a place of total irrelevancy to being pretty okay overall. Hurricanes, somewhat interesting. The Fenrirs and Jotuns, those were functional. I don't think there's any specific problem with them.
That right there. Concern.
This right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, the magnetic coal cannon. Not quite as destructive as was anticipated up front, but they certainly are quite something. It's a kinetic anti-shield weapon in its initial form. Bit interesting. The Gugners also pretty interesting in how they're set up. Big blocky turrets that fire slowly and do something. Though, to be brutally honest, I'm not exactly sure what they're doing anymore. And that's part of the problem. Anyway, over with the Aesirs, Surters, and Veneers. For the most part, well liked, but edging on a little bit too much here and there. Nothing particular sticks out. Feels like it's in a good place now. Mark II probably didn't need a nerf. Gugners being slept on. Bro, 33% damage decrease. Bro, lol, 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 lol. Might as well set it back to Season 1 where it only did 2 blocks of heavy armor on hit. Just give it back the big dick shield damage. Presumably in reference to the coil cannon?
Maybe. I don't know.
And this...
I don't speak, child.
So reading between the emojis... this appears to be a shitpost dedicated to this line here. Why did you waste the last test tournament? Now we're gonna fucking GT blind, re.com. I don't think the coil cannon was responsible for anything in particular. Okay, got some good stuff here. Let's talk about quality of life. Lots of too loud sounds or sounds that have their first distance sound stage set too far out. Real thumb is 800, 1200, good spot. I believe some of that was looked at. Well, I suppose not enough. Distance sounds kicking in at 12 meters or longer is okay. For slow firing or quieter guns, usually fixed guns like the Mark II coil cannon, I would not change. It's fine. Louder tinny guns that give you tinnitus, squash the distance sound starting general. Okay. So NHI sound leveling or finest firing. Okay. Believe that's what I can take out of that. Makeheim, reskin of the Painless.
So it was.
So the Painless was put in when there was just no kinetic point defense that would even really be considered useful. And it was set up that way at around the same time that the Heimdall was being set up, and they were both presented at the same time as a pretty decent, well, relatively decent point defense. One of which can shoot at grids, one of which cannot. And I'm not sure if making the Heimdall a reskin of the Painless is exactly what it needs. Painless itself might be redundant. Some post-reflection leads to a point I make later on. This pack currently feels as if it's been balanced by a different person for each gun, making it feel just not cohesive within itself. That's
Hey
a
guys.
decent point. Greetings. You join us in the middle of the NHI pack.
Cool.
So far, level the sounds. Whatever this is, appears to be blaming
Otto
the
is
tournament for something. I don't know.
Otto is dubbed that the Lucky Charms essay.
The Lucky Charms this thing.
It gives me visual cancer.
Yeah. Let's see. Goal should still be monitored after the nerf, verted, time test Hellfires, might be addressed as well. We were working on that just before the Balance Council here, trying to figure out exactly what was going on. Finally figured out all those reports of you can fire at 15 kilometers with the painter, you can't fire. The trick is you got to set the painter in the camera with the camera channel set to whatever the camera channel of the weapons is. So if it's camera channel 1, your weapon set to 1, you right click on the target in your camera mode, and you could fire. There you go. So we figured that one out, and we'll get to the rest of it later. We want to make sure that there's no must-take long-range weapon. I agree. Seems good. Not sure if anyone has a use for the Heimdalls, though. Up and down. However, we listened to the person that said the coils were too strong, needs their head examined. They had a set point for balance a long time. What changed? It's now weaker than Thanatos. Decent margin, costs 100 more, excluding foundry costs. Oh yeah, not guided. So, that's not saying anything about the coils, it's saying something about the Thanatos. That's what I'd argue.
Yeah. Plus, aren't the coils like higher bullet velocity, longer range with AI, and more likely to hit?
Then the
than
Thanatos?
Thanatos?
The
Yeah.
Thanatos has guided rounds that are fully capable of hitting a target moving at speed at very long range.
Oh, I thought it only fired at itself at like 4 click or whatever.
Yeah, when it's only the AI turrets, but the issue starts to arise when you're manual firing well beyond that distance, or, like I mentioned before, if you set your camera channel to 1, the weapon camera channel to 1, go into the camera with the weapon set to painter, right click on the target, now it will fire with its AI at any distance up to where the shell dies.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Now, some of the... No, we'll get to that. MA weapons. Slinger, up and down. Tiger, up and down. Edging on too strong. Interesting. Gladius, looking pretty alright. More where it should be, anyway. 2 on Gimbal. Kind of half and half, along with the T1 PDX. They are, well, point defense weapons, as opposed to the T2s, which are, at the current moment, dual purpose.
Too strong?
Too strong. Well, we'll see
Suspicious.
what the comments say. Fixed laser had its gimbal increased by 2 degrees, I believe. It's the only change I remember. T4 doing alright. PDT also fine. Derecho's still not great. Otto saying in chat, running the just right 2-week line is exactly where I want to be, so he's relatively happy with that. Laser PD should be good. If you spend points on it, should shoot down guided weapons. Someone gets shot at with missiles and they don't have flare, PD, or shields, they die. They do have PD, yes. Should be able to swipe down a lot of guided weapons, besides arrows, which flare is designed to counter PD. Otherwise, every fight is get shields down, then blow your alpha loaded missiles. Boring. Grow a set and get in there and painter off those PDX, apes, painless, etc. PD should be very good at doing PD things until shut off. What is the solution to laser PD? I should have flipped these two comments around. Slinger fire both barrels, which would double its effective rate and then drop it. So it would go from 100 to 120 or something. Up the shield modifier to 4x. Boils the Slinger as a good gun, but leaves the Tiger still feeling sad. Now I have had a lot of problems reproducing targeting issues with the Tigers. Like I've gotten them to fire and hit stuff while like traversing sideways at 500 meters a second against a target that's rotating around. So still trying to chase that. I think it could potentially be a nice idea and potentially change the pace to remove some extra PD due to the need for dropping after shell HP got yeeted, so I like to nominate the T1 lasers because they're currently filler that nobody really uses because the superior choices such as the apes. Well, it's not the worst suggestion in the world. If something is unnecessary, there's no real reason to have it. Because the T2 stuff does look great, sounds great, works great. Is there a need for T1? Each time when I see a gun set to pooled that previously wasn't, I get excited and look to see what kind of math they did to convert the expected AoE damage into pooled AoE damage. This takes a lot of care as you don't want to gimp the turret by setting it too small or buff it by setting it too high. A turret that maybe did 4,000 AoE damage in a 5-meter radius is probably doing about 36,000 AoE damage, and then you have to consider the AoE type. If it's linear, that's a 0.55 change to our calculated AoE right there. If you don't change it, then you could be reducing weapons by 80% or more. And if you just add a 0, they could be buffing or nerfing the damage depending on the radius size. And then you got to decide if you want to go with max absorb, maybe add in some fragments, lots of levers and levers to pull. It's all exciting and very cool to see what happens to a gun's performance, and each fucking time I check to see it's just a flip from linear to pooled with no other changes, god fucking damn it. Well, I would be able to offer a comment if there was a specific weapon mentioned.
Yeah, I'm kind of lost.
Maybe the slingers?
Did we touch anything with pooled?
A very long time ago, maybe. Using a squirrel, some bits of string, and a Reaper sound from Mass Effect, Nate was able to recreate the Reaper sound from Mass Effect. Add Reaper sound effect from Mass Effect T4. Yeah, I could probably do with a bit of a audio buff. The T2s kind of steal the show as far as how the audio design goes. They're really well set up. Probably one of the more stable packs, being the best of laser mods at our disposal. A few weapons here like the T1s and Rachos, possibly Tiger Slingers, could be removed as they're redundant. To a lot of better options, we should be removing weapon bloat. Other better options.
I don't know.
T2 PDX AMS damage protect is unreal with the minimum reload and overheat. Now this one I will say probably, as it was not thoroughly, completely tested, which is a problem we'll get into later.
If anything, I don't want to pull stuff from Otto's pack. I want to pull stuff from other packs.
Yep.
Otto's pack has been very consistently stable.
And I've said before, if I have to choose between removing any of the stuff that I've developed and put in versus pretty much anyone else's, but especially Otto, I'm going to pick my stuff first to go. Speaking of my stuff, quote unquote. Punisher. Looking mostly just right. Magnetar, same spot. Artemis, pretty good. Apollo, which is supposed to be a turreted Artemis on the repeating mode, much weaker. Whether or not it is actually equivalent and fairly priced might not be the case. Tempest, looking more towards too strong and just right than it is too weak. Bit rare. Focus beam seems okay. The tractor thing, though, I'm pretty worried about. That hasn't been touched in a very long time, and there might be some bugs that crept in. The Hunter, doing alright. Ares, also just fine. Helios, I was expecting this to trend more towards 2 week, as during the tournament I did watch quite a lot of Helios not actually being effectively utilized. Like they're being fired up the target, but in groups of 1 or 2 at a target that had a full PD screen. And the Doppler, it's losing out. No buffs are needed. Some of the problems with the Apollo was that it was introduced with Asterius damage, and introduced with Asterius damage.
Right.
Reflect that on the docket dossier. Heat adjustments on the docket estimates got deleted or removed at some point. Don't believe they were. And the Apollo's damage numbers got inflated by 55%. Looked like it was doing Qualican damage, and people started taking more. Because of that, perhaps it does need a little love. Tend to undercook things when they are new, but it fixed the docket dossier entry so it reflects what it's doing in game. Interesting. Punishers feel very strong versus armor, but not OP. That's good. It says the Apollo is worth 600 battle points when you account for all the factors he accounts for, but my playtime with it says that it's a very average pick with a few pretty serious downsides, such as power draw. Could be masked by the funny Thanatos status, but I'd still maybe look into dropping the power draw into something a bit less insane.
How much power is it drawing?
It takes like 250 megawatts right now.
Doesn't
How
seem
much
right.
is the Artemis take? The fixed one?
Same amount, but the Artemis has a bigger clip before reloading and overall has a faster fire rate, I'm pretty sure.
Bigger clip. That
Might be also worth removing the overheat on the Apollo. That's the main difference.
Yeah.
Nate could explain it better. Basically, 2
Right.
shots overheat,
That's what I meant, not a
2
clip. sorry.
shots, then long reload.
okay. I'll just mark that down for further.
Deploy
Make it
the vibe
actually
check.
like the fucking same.
Yeah.
Good job.
Good.
Arcs would be proud, question mark. I wish I could bold things.
Bold asterisk.
Yeah.
Asterisk.
Surprisingly well balanced, and things are probably at a stable state, but maybe it's time to retire this one. Sorry.
What?
Just the idea of, alright. Congratulations,
Good,
everybody.
throw it away.
It is now perfect. It's time to remove it.
It's working great. Let's chuck it out.
Yeah. We'll talk about that a little bit later, remind me. Move on, though. More or less full
Moving.
balance. Punishers, after having the reload increased, are... Technically speaking, the reload went down, but they weren't actually utilizing the reload.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was a delay after fire was the only thing stopping them from just firing a constant, like, river of bullets. Paul could use a buff. Well, if it's not Turret Artemis, I agree. Because it's literally not what it's supposed to be. Think tap either a shield modifier or armor modifier, not both though. Focus beam can be taken out behind the shed with the Hellfire swinging its big capacitor around. Don't worry, Hunter, like Quilligan, you're next, winky face. Lots of underperformance when compared to the new peak GT meta of 10-kilometer guided shells and 10-kilometer high uptime hit scan lasers. Hope everyone's ready. I'll get back to that. So, for the focus beam, it was fine, mostly. Like, perhaps a little bit on the weak side with its exact damage output. But in comparison with the Hellfire, of course, it's going to be much lower. Serpent Arms. All right. Erebus, edging into too strong. Asterius, too weak. Sylvius, very much too weak. Sharon, definitely in comparison with some of the other options that you can bring instead, too weak. Cerberus, same story. Somnus, doing surprisingly okay. The Hydra, still thing in the shadows that people are waiting for Grand Tournament to actually use. Grimlock was fine, for the most part by the looks of it, as a single point damage missile. Not a single point of damage, but rather not a crater.
Mm.
Just one missile, and the Hellfire, to everybody's surprise, too strong.
Yeah.
I like the disclaimer.
Okay.
Okay. So this line right here. This is the one that I want to curb as much as possible. The, oh shit, this thing's out of whack, push the change immediately, is good behavior when it's not about to be used. It should be caught quite a distance ahead of time, and usually it's not just because of the count of weapons. And that's what we're going to address later. People are just mad about the Hellfires because they hadn't been using them, got cooked. I'm not sure if they're just mad because they hadn't been using them. If y'all said they, I'm going to assume that means haven't been changed in months. They're already expensive. I need to just update the power draw. Don't believe they've been changed in a relatively long period when compared with some of the other weapons that are getting changes every couple minutes. But 10-kilometer hit scan beam that only drops down to 20% of its damage, I agree, is definitely a problem. Asterius feels like it needs time left tap. Doesn't feel good to use. Try that. Same with the Cerberus and Silvius. Cerberus and Silvius, they've always been problem children. Having used in this DT, I don't think I'll use it again in its current state. Please make a slope to Sharon, please. Hellfire lasers are being complained about are getting more flack than they should. Slight low top component damage is really all they need, and then people need to get good and realize they have to actually manage the modulation instead of just locking to 150 and calling it a day. Now, I don't know how many of you watched the UOD fight where Bryce ran around for the entire fight getting his thrusters picked off like a spider at 10 kilometers. But I'm not sure.
Out of every overreaction, this is not one of them, to be quite honest.
I'm not sure if a slight lead tap on component damage would be really all they need in that case. Just grading them for one tick is kind of cringe, not gonna lie. So in the case of them hitting a hydrogen thruster and damaging it to being non-functional, fine. But there was definitely some cases, I saw it, of ion thrusters just being burned off completely, the armored ones. Hellfires were extremely powerful, I understand a skill-based weapon. Asterisk, that requires proper aim to use, as I tried and failed to operate the weapon due to my poor connection. That's the problem. Due to my poor connection. So if you don't have a flawless connection, you are at a distinct disadvantage trying to use a weapon. Which is true for a decent number of guns, but most of them don't require that you have a consistently, like, flawless tracking of the target by hand. However, even fixed guns are supposed to be balanced. I've seen no issue with the range or the fact that it has fall off. Only that I got shot by the Hellfire at 7+ kilometers and it was dealing insane amounts of damage. I was looking at for all of 2 seconds and I've lost 4 layers of armor and a hydro tank. Of course, it was light armor. But I haven't seen a gun with fall off pass through that much damage without it being worth plus 1,000 points. Unsure if this was an intended outcome of the weapon.
Don't worry. It was.
It appears to have been intended, but much like some military contracts, what you asked for might not be what you actually needed. But I appreciate a slight tap of the nuts for its fall off. Just enough so it probably doesn't burn through like a half night through butter. Not touching the Hellfire laser debate. I like that D here is capitalized. That's quickly becoming a cesspit. But I figured out why the Asterius feels so bad. Its dispersion is nuts and could be tightened a bit. Let's see what 0 looks like in casual testing.
Okay.
Hydras being slept on hard is probably not the biggest fan of, since it has gotten a few busts without any representation outside of scrims. It could potentially be a big funny for the GT, which we'll get back to later. Cerberus sells an artisanally handcrafted Italian shells with a version radius measured in a quarter mile. Every time I attempt to weed out the Sicilians in the supply chain, Valid hides more Sicilians. I'd like this Cottis industry to end. Gauss rounds are highly specialized ammo and require Raytheon to spend 10 million taxpayer dollars on each metal 2x4 that I chuck at the enemy.
Base military industrial complex reference. Sorry.
Pretty much. Anyway, in the Hellfire, going to change that from every tick to once every third or every fifth. I don't see patterns anywhere, so assuming it's doing it per tick, it is. After doing that, set its power draw from 375 to 600 megawatts and its points from 666 to 1120. Then run an impromptu and quick TT next weekend with 4 teams max. You're funny. Ask people.
Yeah, just run one, bro.
We'll get back to that. Ask people today who can participate. Do the thing. Yeah. Okay. Reminded me to feed Muzzle the new old Krieg model for the Airbus on Thursday. You have been reminded. Also re-adding my feedback from 317. Had it removed a few hours before the stream started because I didn't want to become book club time with Muzzled. I thought that they checked the feedback throughout the week. Guess not. Actually, we did. We do. And we mark things down best we can. However, when something is removed and we didn't save that one thing into a notepad, it's hard to just rattle off from memory.
Right, it's a living file.
So it's re-added here. It's mostly about the Sharon with some age Hellfire nonsense.
I remember this.
Here we go. Hellfire's power creeping on the fixed gun seemed to be the intent when talking to 60. Yeah, let's dial that one back, huh? Also, why was the Pride ammo removed? Pride ammo was removed.
Plus 8 ammos to the config.
That still is irrelevant to me, and I don't care. The only reason I said, yeah, just make it a different ammo or whatever. Just how it needed to be. So my suggestion was to just break it out into another variant of the model that had the same name, same points, same thing on the point sheet, but when you put it down, you could scroll and get the rainbow version. That was my suggestion. Not one that was acceptable, apparently. And then a NordVPN ad. Okay. Ignore this fed lore. Okay. Lower their BP or enable the Skynet target grid center option. Now, the targeting of the grid center has historically not gone very well and has resulted in some very strange behavior. Give it a shot. Might not be the solution though. I believe 400 was cap of season 2, and they seem to be more potent, or people are bringing a higher thrust to weight ratio and flying by pressing 3 buttons and lazy drifting the most to one side. That's also part of it. Adding more than one velocity vector and then turning slightly is going to cause a lot of turrets to miss. In fact, almost all of them. Asterisk. Sylvius must address, Cerberus still needs to lose its deviation. Sylvius having a 95% damage drop off might be a little high as well. Component you want it to kill or leave at 1 HP range, just damage accomplish the effect instead of scattering the bones of chicken feathers and dividing a new percentage. Yeah, it was a decent idea, but it wasn't actually fully properly implemented, which is a problem. Make Erebus great again. Put a pin in that. Hellfire is too strong. If a monitor is just hard refusing to nerf something that is clearly doing something more than it should, increase the points, remove the weapon from the main roster, or go in and nerf it and ignore their complaints. Edit. This one's possibly also a this could have been needed come season 4, just due to the fact that so many guns fill out similar roles to others. Best bet would be avoid having weapons people like the most getting merged direct to other packs. Flowers obviously need to be looked at, I agree. Erebos best BP, especially against stuff like the longswords. PD, probably. Also being pretty good against grids. Maybe a little bit too much multi-roll in that turret. That's what I was always worried about. Sebius light armor damage and cont damage at range are just laughable now. Why would I ever use this? 10 kilometer haha funny laser not so funny for the receiver. Maybe reduce its range. And or increase its follow so I don't get laser death halfway through the arena with the 0 kind of play. Please buff Sylvius and Cerberus again. Really think they're still too weak to be worth using. Hellfire damage may be a bit overcooked. Consider turning back some of its qualities. Welcome to the new flavor of the month combo. The Thanatos and Hellfires mixed in with cheap spam guns that do more damage than they really ought to. Right. Well. So, specifically...
I think there's a general theme here. I'm not seeing it.
Specifically, the Hellfire laser was implemented in a position where it should have been looked at further and continued testing. 60 ran into something of a dearth of personal life related stuff and was unable to keep on top of it. So it was put into too strong a position and it wasn't, well, talked down, more or less. Now, as for what should be done about it, got a few options. Some suggestions in here for increasing its points, doubling them completely, increasing its power draw. Although the one that I think I'd be most happy with would be reducing its range to 5 kilometers and starting its drop off at 2.5. Without touching its power draw and, you know, other settings, possibly doing the patterned AoE, so it's not doing that AoE every tick. Few options there.
If you look the modders chat on, I'll link it.
Okay.
This is what 60 suggested, and it was implemented. Quick rundown is, well, originally supposed to have an exclusion zone that was done wrong, so you could just tile them right next to each other. So
Oh,
it was
yeah.
given a 2x2x10 model. Its power draw is increased to 600. And it overheats twice as fast. He's really averse to cutting the range for some reason.
Well, for those of you who would like to see the post, I can put a screenshot here. There it is in full.
You pull out the Hellfire, you'll see a very placeholder model.
So the major issue with the weapon is its range. I think we can all agree on that. That's not a contentious point.
Yep.
There isn't really another weapon that you can just hold the trigger down on out to 10 kilometers and expect to do a decent amount, especially against fast movers whose only solution to you aiming at them is to flip around and, pull a brace. Here it is on stream there. Sorry, turn it. Might be difficult to read that though. So
Can I state my first thought when I read this?
what is
It's
your
not
first?
very nice.
Well, make it very
Yeah.
nice and then state it.
I don't want my precious to be not good. That's what I think.
Well, that's a bit of a reductive stance to take. Even if it's true, it's not actually helping anyone.
I mean, I don't want my weapons to be not good. I want the weapons to be good and functional and usable and for everyone to enjoy them.
Yeah. So
it's
that's
generally
tricky.
not the intention to design something that's horrifically overpowered. Times it happens, obviously, speaking as someone who accidentally developed a weapon that is horrifically overpowered. So, you know, just keep that in mind. It wasn't done maliciously. Call it incompetence, if you will.
All right. So my first suggestion is to actually finish the weapon and have it in a state that is the way it should be, with at least the size of the model, if nothing else. Even if it's just a box, it doesn't even need textures. That'd be my first suggestion before implementing it at all.
We also did originally, or at some point, make a conscious effort to, generally speaking, not have laser weapons reach out past, I think, 5 kilometers.
Yep.
Specifically because, yeah, it doesn't feel that good to just get clicked on.
Please listen to feedback, guys. Stop ignoring people. Who's that directed to?
We do read this
I'm
I mean,
before we do the balance council, guys.
we get quite a bit of feedback. I had multiple people helping test the Thanatos before it went into the tournament. And their feedback was absolutely taken into consideration. Mathematically, the damage isn't absurdly high. Like, the issue mostly, of course, is just the 10-kilometer range and the pinpoint damage nature. But we'll get to that.
Well, Spartan does, or not Spartan, Squid brings up a good point. The amount of cover in the field was reduced unintentionally in retrospect, which made it quite a bit more difficult to break line of sight, which was the exact opposite of the intended outcome. I was hoping the things we had in development on the back end could progress a little quicker. But I think what I'm going to need to do is just correctly disperse and increase the density of asteroids for now. Not quite as dense as it was at one point, but more than it is, and not like off in a quarter of the arena.
Yeah.
Turnip asking in chat, is there a damage ramp up mechanic? The longer you hold on target, the more damage it does. Well, that's called damage?
I don't think so.
Probably on shields.
In the sense of something specifically designed to do that you flip a bool for? No. It can, in theory, be done. Yeah. So this is a two-part issue. One of which, of course, being a weapon that can hit stuff at 10 kilometers, but the fact that you can keep a straight line weapon on a target up to 10 kilometers away and continue doing it for a long time while they're avoiding you, that's another problem completely. Does that describe a huge issue with the Hellfire? Yes. Does it describe a huge issue with the arena cover? Also, yes. More so, even. So, going on the suggestions, moving its max range from 10 kilometers to 7, moving the fall off in the same portion, increasing its power draw, changing the model to the intended size, and increasing the cover in the arena would be a good first step. This one right here, though, this is a pretty decent suggestion for a pattern for the AoE effect. So it's not every single tick doing it. You gotta hold it on target for a second, then it goes. So it's not bang, 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 bang. It's burr, bang, burr, bang, burr, bang. Ideally.
Yeah, I'll say it.
A little light crimson. Wait, so you just let that factor up to chance. What is that specifically in reference to?
We're talking about the asteroid generation.
Right. Yeah, the asteroid generation has been a massive thorn in my side for a long time. I could pick a specific seed and density, and that's it. And I can change how they generate within those two, but I can't
Right.
say asteroid needs to go here, here, and here, and here. Well, I can if I place it down manually, but then it doesn't work for like most of the things that Replicore needs, and it inflates the world size to the point where you joining as a player will take 10, 20, 30 minutes just downloading these asteroid placements, which is another
Right.
problem.
They opened the conversation because they were pointing out blue has better cover than red with the current asteroid density.
Yep, and that's a big problem that I want to resolve.
So it's not like we're not trying.
What happened to the season 2 block plates? Hard performance. It's up and down. I have a solution. I'm just gonna need to do it myself.
It was originally network load, I think, right? At the
Uh,
time.
For the blocker plates,
Yeah.
the blocker plates, the way they were set up, if you touch them, you would clip halfway into them, get your ship cut in half after your shields were instantly vaporized. Without kinetic
Right.
devastation, which is why kinetic devastation was put in place, but kinetic devastation changes a bunch of other things, such as a gyro breaking off on the inside of your ship, blowing up your thrusters on the rear of it. Which put
Was
me in
unfortunate.
quite the annoying position. So I could decide one or the other, but I think I have another solution that is a little better.
Before we stray too far off, let's go back to reading.
Hmm.
I think we already read this. Yeah, so we're on to Recore now, right?
Yep. So
Yeah.
we'll just plow through the rest of this and come up with specific solutions, but it's just put on the table under heavy consideration.
Yep. To the
Recore.
notepad.
Oh, yes.
There we go.
Monopole looking just right, a little bit too strong. SRMs, MRMs, and LRMs, kind of similar distribution curve along with the arrows.
Yeah.
PPCs didn't quite land where I was hoping. Fixed coil
Yeah.
cannon, bit of an anomaly. Medium laser, large laser, same thing, didn't quite land where I was hoping. The MCRN unends kind of being outmoded entirely by superior options such as the Tartarus. Painless, which is just the baneless, which is just the painless. Pretty much the same. It's good to see.
I'm kind of sad about the MCR and UNN.
Surprisingly, subtracting 5-kilometer range from the monopole did less than expected. Dispersion was probably the way to go. The large laser doesn't do its stated damage against shield, so this one, I don't know. what is causing it, and I don't really have something to go on immediately. But I am fully willing to just scratch them from the list entirely until they can be resolved. Probably never in the interest of reducing the overall weapon count, as they are redundant, and they were to begin with as just a add-on filler option by intent. They do sound really cool. You can reuse that sound elsewhere. Having gunned the chunks of 4x4 crater of heavy armor per shot with its high rate of attack kind of kills the idea of making shields optional in the cradle. Making shields optional. Same criticism goes to the today will consume 6 buster blocks per reload laser and remove 1 millimass per shot LBX. All weapons need to have their armor damage and armor pen dropped way down if you were to pursue this idea of optional shields. Broadly speaking, I do agree. There's quite a few weapons that just absolutely crater the shit out of armor.
Oh yeah.
Dabs hard and multiple.
MCR on Xenons die too quickly, can't really explain why. Maybe they're just countered too well with the currently well-performing PD we have. That's my assumption. Be nice to be able to see them to survive long enough to hit the target. Perhaps they just need a speed buff or slight HP buff. I don't know. I'm not sure why they aren't surviving. All I know is that 4 MCR and Torpedo died at 2 painless. Died at 2 painless.
No, that's the thing.
Sold to NPPC, become needs to be minus EOR. That was my intent, but the message got mixed up midway through. So I could go through and actually implement it the way as envisioned, or remove them in the interest of reducing weapon bloat. Remind me to look at later is doing 1/6 the damage that you told him to do to shields. Point of scared testing the components. What else is wrong? That is the question that I am asking as well. Why aren't they doing what they're supposed to be doing, despite on paper being one way? The thing about the PPCs. Too many missiles. GT2 had a good amount of missiles. Monopole range nerf, very much nicer as you're not seeing people snipe across the map with it. Isn't this pack more or less redundant, as other packs do almost the same thing, but better and more reliable? Yep. I get this was just we needed missiles and want them based on mech warrior. I was never really want them to be based on mech warrior, I just picked something that I knew missiles came from. But isn't this kind of a dead pack almost now? Dead pack. Really?
No.
Not sure about that one. Sylvius and Serves aren't worth half the BP cost. Power to run them, fix or yeet. Let's see if the targeting stuff works out. Monopoles might be too good still, but the range reduction did help them from being spammed across the map.
They put that comment in the wrong section.
That's okay.
I know.
Auto in chat. When exactly were shields considered optimal?
There's a discussion about
optional,
it
rather.
a couple days ago.
Yeah, we've talked about the concept several times, but
And it was tried, but I mean,
it
they're
wasn't.
not optional.
It wasn't really tried. Like
Oh, it was tried.
we could put some work into that idea, but we just haven't really gotten around to actually doing anything with it.
Like it wasn't a ground up try and balance all the weapons around the idea that shields might be optional.
Well, if you remember back in season 1, they're like 1,500 points to run all the shield things, and you just paid it, like you paid the tax.
Yep.
No one
Right,
didn't.
but since we gained control over the everything, like we've never tried, for instance, taking all the armor values and turning them up by 4 times and then saying don't use shields and see what happens or anything like that, right?
The armor resistance, you mean?
Is that not what I said? Yeah, that's what I meant. Armor resistance.
Well,
Yeah,
good try.
Which I always
offhand
thought. Yeah, I always thought that would actually be genuinely worth the try. Is just turning up the armor resistance a bunch and then getting rid of the shields and see what happens.
Just as an offhand thing to try, I don't see why not. Starcore experimental and special mods. You got blink drives, arc emitters, and overshield generators. Blink drives looking pretty alright. Arc emitters, surprisingly, mostly alright. Overshields were not horrendous in any measure of the imagination. This is a video of a hand lightning gun.
Yeah. The Palpatine guy for the Star Wars server said, I need a hand lightning effect. So I linked him the arc emitter.
He put the arc emitter on a
He put
hand
it on
too.
a pistol.
That's pretty
Yeah.
fun. Anyway. On the overshield, fortunately, killing your enemy will always mitigate the most damage. Decent point. Between the direct nerf on the sheet and indirect nerf on long range turrets, losing PBLness, they seem to be in a good spot now. Despite ONT using it, not using it, I expect the overshield generators can become strong once Doctrine catches up to it. C2 tanks in mid shield charging each other. We haven't seen that yet. And even if they were, I tend to agree with killing your enemy mitigating more damage, but it is an interesting option.
We already had a hail gun though.
Reduce range on the arc emitter Aristas. Reduce range and up the damage.
No.
Love the concept of the overshield. Very nice. Blinks are still pretentious as always, but fuck those who think only one is bad. It is healthy. Alright, a bit aggressive on that, but seems to be fine. Consider making the Gonkel a healing lightsaber. Chance of
Sounds like
missing.
Gonko.
I believe that is the overshield name. Like
That's not what he
Gognir.
told me it was. Whatever.
Chance of missing a projectile with long reload like that means most people will never bring this, especially at the short range. This is a decent idea.
Oh wait, the reason it's projectiles because I think it has an AoE, so that if you hit someone, you don't have to worry about their shunts, but it does still heal.
Well,
I guess you do still have to worry because it'll reduce the amount it heals, but it'll do something instead of just
Yeah,
you hit the armor in the mouth.
You already tried shield
yeah,
pad?
that was intentional.
Or whatever it is. No, it's fine. Maybe making it go faster would probably be enough to address that concern.
Okay, I'll see what I can do about it.
Yeah, like if there's a decent chance of firing at a brick and missing because it's too slow, just make it go a bit faster.
Okay,
That should be
I'll
fine.
see what speed's good.
Gotta be really honest, I haven't done very much testing with it myself, so it could be perfectly flawless the way it is now. Just keep it in mind. Warhammer 40k, Nova Cannon. Pretty good, too weak, too strong, who knows? Cool out of 10, my opinion might be biased, but I'd like to see the Nova Cannon just getting the tiniest projectile speed increase. Nothing really changed. Hey sweetie, this gun is broken. The logs count overkill, yeah, so the log thing. There is something, somewhere, doing something very anomalous with the logging output, because the client shouldn't be getting any of those logs. Like the damage and grid stuff, that should all be on the server. Should, I'm told. I've never observed this, and even with all the mods stripped out, we haven't been able to properly replicate it, but that'll be one of the things we're chasing down, trying to figure out what exactly is going on there, because something's obviously wrong. Bug report time.
Something. Oh man.
This gun fires twice, then reloads. Two craters, so you fire once, then fire again, and then it does a single shot, then reload. Tysel, do you know anything about that?
About what, sorry? About the gun firing twice?
Yeah, the Nova Cannon firing twice.
I've never fired the Nova Cannon, so I don't know. I don't know why.
You don't know why this is written about you?
Yeah, I don't know what that's written about me. Yeah, I've never used the Nova Cannon. I haven't even tested it. I'm like literally never laid eyes on it.
Interesting.
It must have been like a cross discussion wire or whatever, because we were talking about stuff to do with this the other day.
Could reload faster. I believe the intention was a gun that you can pop down, fire every now and then, not need to worry about constantly keeping your nose on target. That's what Darth told me.
Mm.
It's more or less a oomph tempest, but what else does it do? It doesn't need to do anything else. May not be the best gun, definitely one of the coolest. Lots of style points. That's what else it does, really.
Now, not related to this gun, and even though I know that we're going to be talking later about cutting out some of the guns,
We'll get to that.
are we going to add any Warhammer 40k guns other than the Nova Cannon?
Certainly not for this season.
I know.
We'll get to that.
We'll get
I
to
know.
all the things in general.
One can hope.
Actually, I have to go use the
Sorry.
washroom, so I'm just gonna leave the camera on the Thanatos here. And,
I can deal with this one.
Wow.
Yeah, if you want to start the discussion about it, come back and
Okay.
pick up where you leave off. I'll be right back.
Yeah, so once again, the intention was never to create a weapon that is absurdly overpowered. My sincere apologies for ruining everyone's time. That was, yeah, whoops. I originally went about reworking the weapon because the Thanatos was had become underperformant. And in the process of reworking it, we actually found that its original behavior had been broken. Its shells was never reaching the right speed, and they weren't tracking correctly. So we went about fixing that, redesigning a new, flashier, more fun behavior, which also broke a couple of times. Gave it the burst and was trying to retain the original sort of theme of the weapon that I designed, because it existed for quite a long time with its 15-kilometer manual range and all this stuff, and it hadn't seemed like a problem, although that was probably mostly because it never got used. So anyway, we ended up where we ended up, and my apologies. We have a few thoughts on how to bring it back in line, and Valid came up with something very cool where the shells can be deflected by PD shooting at them. We can reduce the range, we can take the guidance off, whatever it takes. But of course, the intention is to bring the weapon into balance with everything else like it once was. So, sorry, everyone.
Nice, bro. Happens.
Yep.
As far as the Vulcan, it's been in the state that it's currently in for quite a while. I'm not sure where the new sentiment that it's stronger is coming from. Maybe it's just people are getting better at using it. But if it does look like people feel it needs a little bit of a tap backwards, so I can look at that. Some people have suggested just having a little less ammo. So maybe going from 1 minute worth of ammo to, say, 45 seconds. That's a thought. If anyone has any thoughts on what specifically should be done to nerf the Vulcan a little bit, we could, of course, change its battle point cost.
Well,
Just make it more expensive.
what was the intended effective range for the Vulcan?
All right.
I mean, the intended effective range for the Vulcan was really more like 2.5 to 3 kilometers, maybe. I guess closer rather than further, with it being able to shoot out further, but having a high spread.
Okay.
And it does have a certain amount of recoil, so you do have to put some work into controlling it, although heavier grids don't suffer very much.
A comment from Turnip.
Yep.
Tibbs, tell Wiseman it's because people are getting melted by 3 of them. I mean, they are spending 3,000 battle points to get those 3 Vulcans on the field.
Yeah, but it's a fair concern.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not. I think they're okay. I mean, yeah, you can shoot for a whole minute, but I mean, okay, maybe make them more expensive. Put a climbing cost on it.
Aren't they quite difficult to
When they
apply?
say 3 of them,
Oh.
they mean 3 separate ships shooting
Oh
at
yeah,
them.
that's right. It's grid limited to 1.
Mhm.
Yeah, kick the cost up a little bit then. Or you can make it shoot like 45 seconds, like you said.
Well, don't know exactly what was discussed, but we'll just go over what's written here.
Sorry.
Gave
Yeah,
I gave a pretty good history, I think, on what happened with the Thanatos, and apologize for leaving it in, or putting it in a state where it resulted in everyone having a bad time. I genuinely was trying to balance it and put it in, make sure it was in a decent spot right up until the day before the tournament. But
I'll make mistakes. That's
fucked
how it
up on
goes.
a couple things. So
And if we're being real, the onus is on me to catch that kind of stuff.
well, I mean, there's a limit to what one man can
Yeah.
do, and I am a part of the team.
That is a good point.
And
Anyway, we'll make sure it's fixed up here. But the Nyx Mammon, I marked down as just right, a little bit too weak. Thanatos, of course, got the Vulcan split between just right and too strong. And out of the rest of these, the ones I'm most concerned about are the Tartarus and the Cyclops. For the Tartarus, it's the shields go down 4 kilometers, launch 1, they flare, launch 2, they flare, launch 3, launch 4, launch 5, launch 6, launch 7.
So
launch 8.
I have. So my thought on this is not that there's a problem with the Tartarus; it's that there's a problem with the flares, and I
Yep.
think the flares are too expensive.
Well, there is a problem with the flares. And the way they were conceived and the way they worked was exactly how they're supposed to be used, of making the missile go elsewhere, then come back around, giving your point defense more time to deal with it. The way it works right now is every time you fire a flare, everything within a given radius is just stripped of its brains, and then that's it. Which is a difficult position for something like that to be in.
I mean, I think our player base has pretty well adapted to the flares, as evidenced by the fact that people are waiting, deliberately launching a couple of missiles to try and get people to flare, and then hitting them with the full payload.
Yeah.
I think if you just had the ability to have a few more flare charges, it would be still pretty reasonable. Right now we're charging 50 BP for them. I think we could charge 25 without changing their function, and things would be better. I mean, I guess maybe that seems like it would make them overpowered, but
Maybe a couple minute reload.
It's not really the sustainability of firing flares. It's the overall intended effect of them. Let's see. There is a solution. Just needs to be worked towards. Moving on. Crossfields, takedowns, fine. Let's get into the comments here. Leave the Vulcan alone. It's a high risk, high reward weapon. Enjoyable to watch and use compared to the meme of the month or lol you got missiled often. Why allow it for so long? I think we went over that. Thanatos need to be given PDable shells. Then go ahead and dial back the overheat a bit, and they're a good gun that has utility but also has drawbacks. Doesn't make sense that any other guided munition can be shot down except for them. Also, the range a bit cringe. We could see that the change before the turning was needed, but it needed to be happened sooner. I agree. Yep. 10 kilometer, again, same thing. Bull can use 15 seconds less ammo on its mag. It's too much. We should then do another TT, few seconds. 63 million shield damage per mag. Users notice increase in damage. Infinity minus 20%. Still infinity. Smiley face. Thanatos could lose the track and gain projectile speed increase, or some random movement so they don't cluster in the same blocks and paint or hit, or frag with all of its damage that spawns 25 meters away back and goes to the target in a 45-degree cone, spread out the damage, the way that avoids.
Yeah, that was
Convergence.
one of the solutions I discussed with Nate.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got like 4 possible solutions, 4 or 5 possible solutions. So
Yep. We were testing them just before the council here, and they are looking promising. So, not sure if the Cyclops is trying to replace the Nix Amendment or not, but at the time I think trim the weapon list is a good idea, and seems like be about as good an option as trim as the T1s and Apes and Salvos. Crossfields, fantastic point defense. Suggest renaming the Crossfire to be even cooler. Would have had a super hard on for moving this gun if not for the 4 turrets in each direction. Nice concept. Items are still spicy, just powercraft. I'd like to see things push back so they're good again. And that I can agree with. Thanatos should have been truly kicked in the nuts, seeing a few grids get their shit corded out by a single salvo from 4 of them, at the very least nerf the crap out of its comp damage. Edit. Now that my sodium levels have been reduced, here's a way to balance Thanatos. And just gonna skip over this. We're using a lot of this feedback in our testing, and we'll be walked up and down on. Vulcan could use slightly less ammo, so do fire for a very long time. Rather see the Thanatos giving their shell HP back as they're smart instead of the range decrease. Please take a look at the next amendments. Seems like nobody's bringing them. Please also think about averaging out the Tartarus damage. The word going around is that the damage randomly rolls between almost nothing and crippling. Almost nothing and crippling.
No, that is just because, I mean, I've tested them pretty extensively. I'm pretty sure they work just fine. But if you hit a ship somewhere where it's thin, it just punches through and doesn't really do any damage. And that's the intent, because it's a hollow point kind of design. The damage is in a cone. So they've always made it like that.
Over penetration is a thing.
Yeah.
That could be causing a feeling of random rolling TM. The arrows have something of the same problem. I believe that's because of some wacky fragment behavior.
Yeah, and sometimes you can hit someone just right on the tip of something that doesn't really matter. It spends most of its AoE not actually doing anything, but that's just...
Yeah, it might be like it's
sometimes
the front of it might need to go down, so it procs more often. Thanatos, a little overcooked. Nothing too drastic, that's what we're going for. Reduce Thanatos painter range 6 kilometers or less, being juggled from 10 kilometers because he didn't bring them in a week. Doesn't feel good for gameplay, and Tractor from Attorney will make for boring TT to watch. The exciting fights are the ones where the teams didn't bring the shipos of the week and mixed up loadouts. And it's quite predictable what guns took teams to the finals, since they all contain most of the same gun combos. And broadly speaking, I agree. Yeah, so we have some options that we're going to go over and come up with the best solution as our major case of focus. Moving on. Starcore Invalid Edition. There's a few interesting things here. As for things that can be scratched offhand, there's obviously a few things here. Now, the Sun Launcher is an interesting one because it's kind of oscillated. And now it's in a much better spot than it ever was. It's still kind of a strange niche choice, but it is, relatively speaking, working as intended. Solid rocket boosters are fine, aside from their fucking audio. I will change that myself if I need to. For the rest of it, mostly fine. Surprisingly enough, even the longswords. Definitely pursue the LBX2 and do a super high velocity low damage kinetic option, or even a UAC2 slug version. Disable manual and painter for the Metal Storm.
Oh, yeah, that's Nate's opinion on how it's trash, except it's not when you do this, so it must always be at a decently high point cost.
Interesting. So my team ran 2 Banshee Hanger Bays, barely able to get any damage off them, too slow and die too fast. That, I believe, I know exactly what that is. Write it down. Longsword change felt good. In MechWarrior, LBX has these things. Shouldn't we, as a tradition in Starcore, double intellectual properties listed bullet speed and range? Thus, I propose changing its velocity to 3,600 meters a second. Its range from 5 kilometers to 29 kilometers. And I guess that is a joke. Is it the Metal Storm? Okay.
Yeah, there it is.
Okay.
The veneer is also fucking broken, apparently.
What?
Absolutely disgusting. Insane.
Oh, the little tiny 1x1.
I believe that is case or one of the ones. And that statement right there is not good.
But it's not wrong.
Said that StarCraft must be suboptimal. Took that personally and fed $100 to Odin. Be using your code to make optimal StarCraft that spice up the gameplay. You do it with counterplay. Looking forward to that in the distant future. Long swords for bacon, please. Laser AMS goes burr. Yeah, the AMS effect on StarCraft, bit of an issue. Now, the intended counter to StarCraft is supposed to be the fighters, but right now the fighter bay is massive, it costs too much, and the raw effect that they bring isn't quite what it should be, given that they don't really have an idle pattern. Either there's something in there that they can shoot at, or there isn't, and they just go ahead and shoot it. And then they go back, even if there's stuff on the way, which is a problem. Excuse me. It's used to lose the self-preservation, just makes them shit compared to the others. Go back to when they had a chance to ram the enemy, do deflect predictions as the most balanced they were. That was a consequence of the system just telling them to ram the target. But the self-preservation thing,
That
definitely.
that was one of the bugs of all time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. Here still seem like they're not in the best spot because they're an attrition base, and we want the fight to be over as fast as possible. Not sure to suggest improving them without damaging them across board. That is not worth for your defensive option. So on, so on, so on. Yep, I agree. Maybe give 1x1s a buff in tag or
By one
burn
afterburners.
area or something. 1x1 afterburners.
Well, judging from the comments, everyone else thinks I'm crazy for my opinion about flares. They think they're fine or should even be more expensive. So I don't know.
Well, that's why we get feedback. Nice job, Nod. You've dug yourself a nice pocket on the point sheet with the drones, which are probably the most balanced off the card for the point cost, and add a nice up to the game. The only thing would change is bomber banshee health. They do same tad soft for the laser PD spam. Yeah. The range and damage of the laser PD is interesting. Yeah, something to look into. Okay. Here we go. Special questions and wrap up. Within the bounds of the current Starcore tournament, what ideas should you suggest we consider? I don't think we should do a grand tournament at all. We've waited too long. I've had good statistics from 17 other data points to look at, post the leaderboard and call it, then figure out what to do next. It'd be nice if there was a chat command teams could use to let Muzz know if there's an issue with performance or desync. This I agree with. Now, the interim solution that I want to do as a doctrinal thing is just to keep the HUD on until 5 minutes into the fight, and I did that during the last fight, but honestly that should have been standard operating procedure, and I'm very sorry for how that fight ended up. Having people to go into stream present problems such as getting shadowed or argued by viewers, and within a 30-second delay, now many will not even have the stream open during their fights. Also, for the love of God, have a set schedule for when balance changes can be pushed and stick to it. If that means taking away control of a mod from a crank modder earlier in the week because they refuse to do anything about it, then do it. Now, as tempting as it is to just rip control away from people that I don't agree with on the spot, that lands us in a very different situation. But, broadly speaking, I do agree that pushing changes hours before the tournament, not ideal.
Mm-hmm.
Glad to stick with Tento's ship after playing a role in getting nerfed. Even Fox called me out TT saying I'd over-nerfed it, made me decided to stick with what I had built even more. If it was the single ship that I would salute and go down with it. I also did not want the visual or of nerfing other people's ships and then knowing that the nerf was coming, switching to a backup ship with different read loadout. And alas, it still felt like a very strong gun to use. Well, more points of data collection.
Wait, so if you're going to nerf a weapon just before the TT, wait, which weapon are we referring to though? Is because the Thanatos.
The Thanatos.
But that was the one that everyone said was so overpowered it ruined the tournament. So like, which one do you want?
It was seen as over-nerfed by Demon Fox specifically. And then they, out of spite, continued using it.
So did everyone else, and I think they ended up fine. And
I should probably point out, I actually walked back that comment after I did some more testing. I even apologized for it, but apparently it didn't stick.
Well, now it's on record. Yeah. You apologize for it. There you go. Huh. Moving on. If you're going to nerf a weapon before the TT, please make sure to check up on the other guns that have also been claimed to be OP. I agree. I think we need to chill a bit. Players have been putting the competitiveness in front of the fun. I also agree. Provide hard dates for upcoming events would be helpful. In regard, GT well knows coming up. Asterisk. Especially
talk about that.
Considering how drawn out the season will become. What's the big plan? Do we have a few weeks off plan? 3 weeks perhaps? Or do we have a few exhibitions fill time? We'll talk about this at length in a bit. Time for another TT. Same thing. Now this might sound controversial, but I have to say this anyway. Video game testing should be done by observing the people playing the game, not by the advice written in this form. I suggest you ignore the remarks made on page 3 of this form, since the people making those opinions have no idea of what your end goal is or even how to reach it. No idea of what your end goal is. That is a good point. There isn't a written doctrinal guide on how to do any of this. This is all done by the seat of the pants. This is like early military artisanal construction of taking a file and gently going over the barrel instead of running it through a factory kind of thing. So there is a lot of very wide tolerances open that allow for things to slip through. 90 weapons too many. GT2 is 50 weapons, I agree. 30-kilometer sphere, 5 zones based. Maybe allowing Valid to have his knee-jerk reactions and just nerfing the crap out of things was correct. Can we get the season over with? Start a new season with a whole new balance concept instead of the current one, with rules in place for implementing new weapons instead of releasing it weak, then buff it up, as that is 10,000 times easier to balance with, and let's not revisit the PD build magicians until things are comfortable. Like this to be known. If a modder does nothing but their own weapon, someone go in and do something can avoid a repeat of what just happened with Hellfire. Well, there's a difference between refusing and not being able to due to life reasons. But I agree, broadly. I suggest GT3 be run on format. Get back to that. But it is a good point. Give Blast Doors the 100% integrity modifier that vanilla heavy armor and laser armor has. Laser armor, I don't think it has. No. Does it have the base integrity modifier along with its specific modifiers? I think it does. Yeah. Also non-deformed block, which is why I don't see an obvious reason why Blastors don't get it. Generally speaking,
They are not cold.
Yeah, they're not cool. Well, neither are laser armor blocks. It's kind of a difficult position because everybody loves laser armor blocks. They're great stuff. You can use them for a lot of things. They're not optimal to build your ship out of course, but it's pretty good stuff. As for why they don't have extra modifiers, the intent overall is to not encourage players to build their entire ship out of non-deformable stuff because it doesn't cull correctly and it just takes more performance broadly. We're in a good position with performance now. And if we start slipping too much on that, we're going to go right back to 0.8s in speed and lower. Once again, asking for the forum style channel for tournament rules in the Discord, so we have all the stuff in one place. Don't need to search through Starcore info for some old specific stuff. Drone whitelist, for example. Okay. Using suggestion.
Isn't that what the website's for?
Yep. I don't think it needs to be split out like that, though. Current speed curve kind of gets medium shits in the nuts. Maybe reduce the min velocity down to 75 meters per second, make the curve linear instead of what it is now, and or increase the max weight from 16 million to something like 20 or 25.
Translation, go back to the old speed curve.
Yeah, I didn't really see any problem with the old speed curve. I don't know why we changed it.
Hello, everybody.
Greetings. You come joining us during the special questions and wrap-up talking about the speed curve.
Yep.
Uh,
What are people's thoughts on the speed curve? Also, before that, what are people drinking tonight?
Arizona.
Yeah, also, I
Nice.
just said I'd like to. Oh, wait. He
And
probably
Vince?
can't hear me. Can you tell him what I said, Darth or somebody?
What did you say?
No.
I wanted
What
to go
are
back
people
to
drinking?
the original speed
Oh,
curve.
I see Tibbs lighting up in a second. Here we go. Sorry about that, Tibbs.
He wants to go back to the original speed curve, is what he said. That's what he thinks about it.
Okay, my bad. Yes. So people were complaining that the original speed curve was too slow, and what we did do are two things. We took the speed curve where you double the weight, double the mass, or no wait, fuck, double the weight, half the speed, and stuff like that. What we also did was we adjusted the resistance from ×6 to a ×0.5, which actually means you take you cannot push against that barrier that the self-imposed barrier as much. But what we could do instead, we go back to the old speed curve, but to make people a little bit faster, is like maybe up the resistance to a 1 or a 1.5, or maybe it was a 3 to begin with. But yeah, so play with the resistance instead, maybe.
Interesting idea.
So big ship would need big thruster if they want to go 100 instead of just kind of drifting.
Previously with the speed curve, or with the resistances at, I think it was 3 actually, not 6. You could take the Charby and put 5,000 points of hydrogen thrusters on it and have it go max speed. So obviously that wasn't quite there yet. It was maybe a little bit too high, but I think there's a good in between. Maybe it's a 1, maybe it's a 1.5, maybe it's a 1.1. We'll just have to check it out and see what people feel about it. But say if you're a big fat ship, but you paid extra battle points for extra thrust, you can maybe go 60 or 70 or 75. Something to check out.
Well, it is a one-line config change, so it doesn't really require all that much work to try.
I'm drinking some warm sake.
Warm sake, not hot, just
No,
room temperature.
hot. I just, you know.
Tepid.
Are we talking lukewarm?
Anyway, write it down as look at speed curve.
Yeah, blackjack speed curve.
Speed curve.
Going fast, fun. Consider that. Would break some things.
I myself am drinking a wheat ale.
Pretty good.
Something to think about. Yeah, I think. Well, we'll get to that later in more detailed talks once we're actually testing with it.
Yep. Okay. Please keep tuning in the balance. We're not ready for the GT yet. Get to that, but I broadly agree. Next season needs to be a council of active testers, with so few of the staff and modders actively participating in tourneys. Feels like a lot of the higher-ups have lost touch with the game and how a competitive mind thinks.
I'd like to make a statement on that.
You can save it for now, because broadly speaking, I agree, which is why I'm kind of excited for the off-season, because I'm going to get participate a whole lot more, not running the tournament. So I'm excited to participate more. We're seeing the top speed for max weight, seeing pairs of 20 million mass tanks going nearly the same speed as a 12 million mass is cringe as hell. In my opinion, tanks become speed brawlers. With cheap semi short-range guns, you don't see them fighting at ranges anymore or holding points, hence why you don't see them with any long-range charts and you'd expect like capital ship class. Why bring brawlers that are 8.5 to 14 million mass anymore when tanks keep up with them 10-kilometer hitscan guided memes and projectile vomit from overcooked cheap secondary turrets while going 100 meters a second. Meanwhile, their usual break can only go 180 to 145. I would argue, first off, that does that not describe the problem with the weapons instead of the speed, but I can see what you mean. Anyone remember Winfield flying to Cortez? That was a real tank. No Beyblade blink memes going 100 meters a second, just a Mac and a Dream crawling around at 50 meters per second. Pepperidge Farms remembers. That was also when there was no capture zone. Fixed overcooked PD, lasers are hilariously strong compared to kinetic PD for any missile that goes faster than 450, stating otherwise is hilarious. Slap down 8 painless and launch a single 400 battle point longsword at it.
This is the kinetic PD will fail to intercept the longsword while lasers will just hit it.
This is a decent point. The kinetic point defense is supposed to be longer range, broadly speaking, than the
Yes, the bullet doesn't. The bullet goes to where the bomber was, not where the bomber is.
Yep.
Wait, that might be the model. No, we'll figure it out later.
Yep. No, I don't think the model is actually considered anyway. Mid-range guns are practically useless. Everyone that's sweaty prior bringing long-range guided hit scan memes or super close-range overcooked DPS memes. There's no middle ground. The entire 4.7 or 4 to 7 gun mark apart from the Magnetar could take a dirt nap, and last TT would probably play it the exact same way. To which I would argue laterally, the lack of effective cover in the arena contributed a lot to that.
Yep. I wanted to say something about the top of that.
Sorry.
Yeah, that. I agree that I would like to have a group of active testers, and I would also like to say if anyone wants to learn how to do tournament administrative paperwork so I can go back to being a team captain, applications are open. That is all.
Moving on down the list. Thank you for participating. If you have any further remarks for the team, please feel free to convey them to us here. Played this game for 12,000 hours. I don't play it because it's the best game ever. I play it for the experiences and interaction with others. I've seen good servers die for various reasons. Unfortunately, I usually lurk and not say much. Getting the vibe here, reading the Discord and these responses, and it's scary. So gonna say stuff. You know, weapon is overcooked and have to use it at TT anyway. You may be part of the problem. Consider for the moment PvT and PMWs and that whole ordeal. Yet, looking at the last dozen TTs, PMWs have probably been better fun. In the current state of PMWs, they're not nearly as much of a thing as they were originally. I'll say that much. If there are more TTs, I challenge all of you not to spam the latest meta meme of the month. Do something else. These are test tournaments to find and fix things. If you find something before the TT, fix it, or find someone who can. That being said, thank you all the modders and staff and testers, etc. Starcore is great and couldn't be done without you. I agree. Starcore is fucking crack. I've been here for 3 years. I'm not tired of it. We'll get fatigued, but I'm always thinking about it.
Amen, brother.
So close to being a total conversion mod pack built on a shoddy base game. It's fun and tickles that part of my brain that is suppressed by the meds they keep giving me. I want StarMade to be good. I want multiplayer FTD, Star Trek, Quake, Arena Deathmatch. I want Fractured Space but Lego. But it's held back by being on the verge of a bi-weekly event and the fact that Space Engineers is a fucking shit game. Want an automated Forge Alliance Forever style that is constantly iterated upon with monthly patches. Took a while, but the automatic game nodes are now possible. The issue is, once again, Spring Commander is a good game and Space Engineers is not. Most of the fun comes from chilling in voice chat, building ship with the boys. How do you automate that? Well,
You automate that by having a big enough player base like most actual arena deathmatch games where you can load into quick play. We don't have that, which is why we have to have a weekend tournament where everyone who cares about this can show up and actually fight each other.
Well, just presuming for a moment
increase.
that we have thousands, all right?
Mhm.
Starting from where we are exactly right now, I'm still not sure how I would implement that idea without an outside matching system.
I could
Right.
tell
Yeah,
you.
that's a
next-
technical issue. I'm just saying the first hurdle is actually like filling such automated system.
You could have a Nexus thing where you have a bunch of servers that you can
Yeah,
join.
yeah. Like the technical aspect of it is its own problem. I'm just saying that can wait until it would
Fair.
actually be helpful.
This is easy. Just be a millionaire or a billionaire and like hire a team and like a whole server.
Oh,
for
why
yourself.
didn't I think of that?
We could just
Create our
go
own
see the
video
Titanic.
game.
Yeah,
Done.
let's all go see the Titanic. Easy.
Oh no, no, no.
Wait, no. There are much cheaper ways to die in the ocean.
So
Don't worry, guys.
Imagine
We'll use
Getting paid
specialized
to
armor.
do it.
getting back to the point,
Yeah.
I do believe it's possible. Because we don't need to have 100,000 people or whatever. Because the pygmies work just fine, but they kind of rely on the people that show up bringing things that make sense, so you're not throwing them out for your team. And there's also the problem of whenever there's pygmy running, people want to join. So instead of a 4v4 like you would see in an actual match, it's closer to a 8v8, 6v5, something like that. It's not codified.
Yeah.
And the people that
Some of the
don't make it, well, they just get cut off. So
best pick-me's I've had though were like those 6v6 large ones or something.
yeah, and it's up and down, so it's a little bit harder to nail. But I do believe there is some kind of solution relative to that.
If only there was a way that we could use the team deathmatch, but pick me style.
The 8v8 into split bracket format has been really enjoyable lately. Accurate retelling of 317 might do one for 318. We'll look at this a little later. Seems to be some kind of shitpost. Oh, okay.
What?
Guess we're not looking at
It's to this Discord.
Or no?
that. Because I got another.
Yeah, well, I don't know
thing
why
I don't
it's
know.
doing that.
Oh, F, I guess.
Stop listening to Spartan and Enderoth. Listen only to Nate, Artificer, only Nate, Artificer, but don't listen to him if opinion agrees with Spartan and Enderoth. Blessed be
Damn it, Tate.
schizophrenia. Thank you for all the volunteers and stuff. Put a lot of time and effort in making a fun, balanced arena PvP environment for us to argue over. That's a good point. Just a bit of transparency so we, the community, can actually see and properly respond to ideas being determined in the background and can't refute unless our voice is loud enough in the Balanss Council. Well, that's an interesting statement. Second and more obvious issue is the response to community being given runaround solutions that's not hurt feelings turned out to be as well as we could have expected. That test rework was amazing by Wiseman, nobody nuts that, but it was tailor-made for when PD bullshells were a thing, so their damage was cranked up and given burst mechanics to make them worthwhile. They can't be shot down now, but retain the risk of damage and either reintroduce the shell HP or cut the 3 damage sites along with the existing shield damage. We have solutions in progress.
Damage was cut down.
Alright, the real problem here is that the community has pwned the Balanss team too many times. Has had like 3 or 4 I told you so moments, and for the first 1 or 2 times the community was a fork. The third and fourth community realized there's a huge problem, and that's when the moon darkened. By the way, if your objective here is to appease every player in the community, then I would suggest you stop what you were doing and leave Starcore. Well, that's not my goal.
Not very nice.
And yeah, that's...
Bro.
I'd categorize that as a fairly reductive statement.
But it's not wrong, which is interesting.
Mm.
It is wrong.
It's a defeatist mindset.
I
And
go for the 99%.
if I just decided that every time something went wrong to say, fuck it, whatever, fine, I don't care, throw it all out, it wouldn't be Starcore.
Starcore would have been gone at tournament 2.4 if you did that. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
2-4
before
would
that,
have been the last one.
2.4 would have been the last one.
no, before that, critical
GT
areas.
Yeah.
Yep. Or the
2.3 critical hit.
yeah, the critical shit, that stuff.
Yep.
You know, there's gonna be problems. I guarantee it. There's gonna be more problems in the future. There's gonna be stuff exactly like the Thanatos just happened. That will happen again. I guarantee it, and we will fix it again. And that's, you know, unfortunate when it does happen, and we try to make it not happen. And we're getting better at it. It used to be that there was more than a couple weapons that were completely broken every tournament.
Yeah.
We should remind everyone how good they have it now. Unleash the PNWs. I think the thing that sticks in my mind the most is there's one player in the original Grand Tournament that just had a potato up against, like, whatever Carnivore's team was, and they tried flying forward with their, you know, brick wedge with gun, and he got PMWs launched at him. His game froze up, had no connection, and when it came back up again, like I was watching through his screen through Discord, it was just, you know, shattered
He was
wreckage.
dead.
All right, guys, y'all fucked up this time. Everyone knew Thanatos was broken. K knew, so they knew Thanatos was broken. The admins did nothing. The admins did nothing. How could you, Wiseman? You did nothing. Pretty
Yep,
cringe.
I didn't push changes literally up to the last minute before the tournament started in an attempt to bring the fucking weapon line.
Here is the commit history of the mod pack in the Thanatos. Like, I'm not saying that your anger is misplaced. I'm not saying that you should not feel upset for anything that happened. What I'm saying is, did nothing is not what happened. Ignoring feedback shouldn't happen multiple times, and that's why people are mad. Feedback. On the Hellfire, I agree. On the Thanatos, I don't agree, even if the solution that was originally arrived at wasn't perfect.
So I don't agree with this post here, but as a person that is only access to the community, or only has like the viewpoint of the community, the Thanatos thing was brought up like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and it wasn't really fixed or addressed until like Friday. So I can see where like there's a bit people are like a bit salty because like people are talking about it.
Would you like to know the real reason?
Well, we were talking about it, and I was getting feedback, and we got the we ran the scrims that and brought in the new tool where we get the data and everything right, and it just wasn't at the time looking that completely insane. It wasn't looking that far out of whack.
Now I'll admit my piloting was pretty bad that day.
Yep. So the
apparently mine was too.
The perception here is more important than what actually happened. And I agree that it should have been dealt with much, much sooner. It's just a mistake on our part. Tournament was a lot of fun, despite Thanatos being quite painful. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Quite the post here.
Jesus.
Probably come back to that. The toxicity and general tension in the Discord is at an all-time high, and I think we need to address it before things implode and we all leave. I've seen this play out in other Discords and games, and I'd rather not see it happen here as it's still preventable. Some of my favorite video game moments have been from this community, both in games and just talking VC and having genuine fun. I feel like a lot of that has been lost of late, and people who are on good terms are now at each other's throats, which is pretty unfortunate. And yes, I agree. There has been a bit of hyper competitiveness going around with some rather flagrant accusations being tossed here and there. And we're all human. It's human nature. And I do think it can be resolved before it does become an issue. What's up?
I was going to say my opinion is to remember that it's kind of just temporary and that things are going to change. It's not going to be this way forever. So, don't judge too quickly.
Yep. I think that's Asilmi in the chat saying, remember the good old days, how our Grimlocks, the torpedoes, worked, was changed the night before the actual tournament. Didn't they get like their damage massively cranked or something? Like that original
No, they were
clusterfuck?
absolutely ridiculous. Then they were put to ridiculous.
Other Grimlocks? Oh, dude, those things were stupid.
Which
It was
instance
amazing.
of Grimlocks was this? Was this when Armco got shit on by them and left?
Grim 2s, when they were just... Yeah. Yes.
I want to torture more YouTubers, please. Invite more.
No.
We'd like to, but the game isn't fun.
Well, it's fun, just fine with some minor issues here and there.
Anyway.
Keep up the good work. Thank you. Balanss feels pretty good. That is an interesting statement after reading the rest of the survey. A couple of things could be tuned back, like Hellfires and Thanatos. I agree. A few things could use some love like Mams and Nicks, but it all feels like it's at least in the ballpark. I'm enjoying the TTs, only wish I could win one. None of the kinetic turrets are worth taking since they all fucking suck at shield damage. Hull damage is nice, but completely irrelevant if you can never get through the enemy shields. Interesting. Is this what real Balanss looks like? Or are we miles off from where it should be? What a whiplash in town. It's been feeling like one step forward, two step back for the last few TTs in that regard in weapon balance, with the introduction of a slightly modified version of old guns, magic beams, heavily tested at PD, allowing long range hit scan, near hit scan drones, then immediately regretting it and changes to the old faithful guns that didn't do nothing to nobody, bring back the Mark II coils to where they belong. Also look into the damage stat system, recording overkill and block. So this one is something I mentioned before. The actual output into your client log shouldn't be there. Like in the code, like it shouldn't put anything into your client. It should only be on the server.
Look at these things I have.
Yeah, look at these things I have. And the server logs are blank. It's inverted somehow. And apparently it's only on Starcore servers, so there's something very sideways going on indeed. So that'll be one of my major points of focus, is figuring out exactly what that is.
So yeah, that may have been why like some of the graphs we were looking at and Thanatos wasn't doing outstanding damage because other weapons were just hitting light armor but reporting the full damage or something, and that's why whoever shot Persons was just the king of damage.
And
Yeah,
it could
because
be
it's all
a
light
cause
armor.
for something else as well, because you know that shit
Yeah.
where you got to restart your game in order to make sure that on restart you can actually get the weapon core API to load. Maybe that's related.
Yeah, because according to the damage stats, I was genuinely expecting someone to bring like Mark II coil cannon boats and just like wipe the floor with anyone who brought Thanatos.
Yeah. So this was a multi-layer issue where we had a new tool that seemed like it was the answer to a bunch of problems, and it turned out to actually cause problems that it wasn't intended to.
I can see why the post above about the kinetic turrets exists. That's because we balanced all the turrets to be worse than the coil cannon at shield damage, and then the coil cannon got nerfed, and so what are you left with?
So
Something to think about later.
broadly speaking, step one, fix the Hellfire and Thanatos. You know, hammer down the nails that are sticking way out.
And Monopole.
And Monopole, sure. Reduce the outliers. Then freeze it. And this is the thing that I said we're going to keep coming back to over and over and over again.
What the fuck?
Same, honestly.
Good post.
Server muted immediately.
What was it saying? Wow, that really threw off my line of thought.
Pause, freeze, something.
Right, so total freeze, best we can. So of course, if something is obviously broken, like, you know, shooting down through itself or has a million trillion damage or no power draw, fine. But these little tweaks up and down of, oh, this needs to be, you know, this much more efficient here and there, do that on points alone. Keep everything frozen where it is. And just run weekly events, like Nate actually suggested me in a DM, that are not run by me, completely separated from the official Starcore canon, and just cut the season here. Because we can run the grand tournament, yes. To what end, though? We're not in a good place, and to be in a good place is going to take quite a bit of development work. And I'm not even convinced that all the systems that we know are working are in fact working just because of that logging thing. That should have been like the biggest red flag made to begin with, that being at all off, because that is taking stuff directly out of the thread and shitting it out into your client. If that's wrong, something is very wrong. It might be with the servers. It might be just with the system that it's on. It might be one of the mod packs. Maybe, the fucking vanilla replacer is going behind weapon core and strangling it to death. Who knows? There's a dozen distinct different problems here that we can resolve over time, but not before any reasonable time frame for the grand tournament. So if we cut it here and run nice casual events going forward, then sometime when the season started last year, started up again, season 4, in a much better position where things aren't changing week on week. And the only things we're actually moving around are the things like the game modes, the maps, the arenas, the points on things, not the actual functionality, everything about everything. 90 weapons is too much to expect anybody to deal with. Like, your personal ability as a human to deal with numbers stops pretty far short of that, somewhere around 50. Comparing 90 things against each other is just not possible. So am I saying we should scrap everything, start over? No. Am I saying we should collapse and telescope a bunch of different weapons into a single variant? No. Removing the things that are redundant and not enjoyable, rather than removing the things that are currently not meta. Because they're not meta because there's another problem elsewhere. Why don't you bring one thing? Well, because the Thanatos exists, or because the Hellfire exists. Why would you bring this other thing? Well, if you nail that down, which one can go? Is it the weapon that's been fine this whole time and was just power cracked by something that was put in as a mistake? Or is it the weapon that's not actually all that fun to use or get shot at by? If you catch my drift.
Is there a way, like a path, where we could fix stuff enough to get a GT, do you think? Or
it will
there-
only end in
I
the
was gonna
exact
suggest an
repeat of what just happened.
It is more or less related to the time frame.
Yes.
Can we get
but it
what
would
we
take
currently
some
have
less.
to the point where it'd be comfortable to put it into a GT? Yes. Can we do that within the next 3 weeks? And then wait another 4, 5, 6 weeks, however many weeks players want. Well, that's going to end us up where season 4 should have started.
Right. According to historical records, we should be starting season 4 in the middle of August. We are in the middle of June.
Yeah.
The mistake I made was thinking, oh yeah, we did this in the past, we could just do it again. However, lots of things have changed, and we know more about the game. We want to know less about the game. See into the abyss.
So, do I
Where am
think
I
there's a
going here?
path to having a GT for season 3? Yes. Do I think there's a reasonable time frame for that? No, not right now. There's too many things that are too many loose ends, and if we nail down the current 3 or 4 potentially problem weapons and actual problem weapons, there's going to be another crop, and the arena still doesn't have its proper cover. And there's still that bug with the logging that might be causing other issues that we're not sure about. Maybe that's why sometimes things don't do what they're supposed to do. I don't know. And I really want to focus on making the game work well instead of trying to take something that's broken and force it. So in the sense of the grand tournament, maybe not, but running actual events that are more casual week on week on week on week, hell, even multiple times a week, I think would be a lot better, just strategically speaking, for further development. Now, this isn't written in stone. I'm not saying GT3 is canceled right now. This is the public floor for this. If this is absolutely hated, I'm going to walk back on this, but this is kind of where we are now on the team, quote unquote. We've been talking about this for weeks.
I'd be down for GT3 even if it was out of balance. To be honest, I think having a GT is the kind of like milestone for the end of a season.
Right.
I had a funny idea, probably not going to be the most popular, but we could do something silly for a casual GT, some sort of exhibition where every team chooses one specific mod pack to equip their ship from. Like that, I think would be funny.
If it's in a non-competitive aspect, yes.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't make sense for a grand tourney, but I mean, if things are unbalanced and we want to have one just to have one, then fuck it, in my opinion.
So,
unfortunately, so good.
The two options are thus: nail the problems down best we can right now, then lock everything, even if it's a problem. Run the tournament. There you go. After 3 weeks of no changes to any of the weapons, and the only changes that are made are to the arena and any side bug fixes. So what about an impromptu GT where you cut the fat, lock it up, run GT, then do casual shit? That's another option. Well, kind of a variation of one of the options between A and B.
Oh.
We also don't have the whole community here. Maybe this is something to ask throughout the week.
Run a poll.
Yeah, I mean, I could run a poll.
That's something I kind of want to avoid doing, because every time
Yeah,
I've said
because
run a poll, I immediately get told you can't run this like a democracy. Okay, be a dictatorship, but I don't want this to be a dictatorship, because for me, personally, I'm going to level this out. There's full hand on the table. I have never once found the Grand Tournament to be necessary, interesting, required, even something to build up towards, because to me, all the fun is in the gameplay. What you call it doesn't matter to me. This isn't an opinion shared by everyone, which is why I don't push this idea, which is why I'm leaving it open. We can run a poll. We cannot run a poll, but if the solution here is to just put it out.
I've always felt the same way. I thought the GTs were just like, they're just tournaments.
The GTs are like obviously a bigger tournament, but I treat them almost like a regular TT, except for the fact that they sort of
have a bit more mysticism
the
around
end
them.
of the season is all.
Yeah. So, broadly speaking, that's our solutions.
My perspective is I want the sweatiest, fucking disgusting fights and meta ships. I love seeing people break shit.
You got
However,
that last tournament.
Yes. However, it's only fun when people don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there are 17 data points. If we had a GT, it's going to win. Come on. Come on, guys.
Yeah, but that's
There
not
is
necessarily
no
a reason.
interesting thing that can happen. And that's where I'm split.
Not sure if that's necessarily true, especially if it's not run like a single elimination. It's just grouped round robins, and you take the team with the highest winning. I believe Spartan wrote that down.
Oh god.
You get X amount of fights, and then you tally up. All right, who won the most? And then, if Team A hack wins 4, and then Team B UOD wins 4, then they can fight whatever instead of having a single elimination.
Turnip has a good suggestion.
All right, let's see. Just send Spartan a mug with the bracket president where he's number 1.
Send it.
Someone quote you what? I don't
I have no fucking idea what state's referring to.
I don't know. Look, I've just been while you guys have been talking, I'm going through my records from GT2. That was 2 weeks of prep, 2 weeks of qualification, and 3 weeks for the actual grand tournament. So 7 weeks, which means that we need to start not this Saturday, but next Saturday. If we're gonna make it by the time we're supposed to start season 4 with no turnaround time.
I was just saying that we have to follow the schedule exactly. We already didn't.
Yeah, I know, but
Well, so here's the thought, and I think, well, if we're gonna end the season one way or the other, right? This is going to be the end of the season one way or the other, and then we're going to move on to season 4. Is the idea? Would it be better to end on a good tournament that everyone has fun in?
Yep.
Season 3.5.
Yeah.
It would also be better to end on something less worse than what could happen.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think probably some of the salt that has been generated. I've only been back for like 2 weeks, but as like, oh yeah, there's a GT coming up. Everybody's getting sweaty, and everybody's like realizing there's something still out of whack. But everybody's talking about not changing shit, and now people are getting salty, and yeah.
My biggest mistake was not listening to Muzzle and thinking, yeah, we'll just do it last time like we did. What we should do, I think, I want to do cool shit.
All
I'm
right.
tired of the arena.
So, all right. So in that case, these next 4 weeks are going to be more casual shit, as you said. I'll be running this weekend Ground Core, and then next weekend there'll be Star Wars Exhibition, and then the weekend after that we'll have Spartan running Rotatable, and then the weekend after that will be 1Ks by Anomaly once he finds out if he's off work or not.
Wait, so
And that gives you guys time to work on things in the background, play Diablo 4, and kind of like refresh, reload, and we can decide what to do after that or something.
That's very optimistic. Now plan for 50% of that going right.
I know. It is a good plan, which is better than what we had before.
Plans are
'Cause
good.
The last statement I gave was cards on the table, here's what I think, put it up to a poll question mark, which isn't, that's not a spot where I ever want to be, because there's exactly 2 outcomes to that, one that you like and one that you don't like, depending on which side the majority you land on. There's no real latitude for the thought or consideration. However, if we
I
wait
wouldn't mind. Oh, sorry.
the 4 weeks and have those filled in by things to do, then run grand tournament that's in that round robin group setup. Relatively more casual than a knockout tournament. You get a fixed amount of fights, run it over, 1 or 2 weeks. There you go. Have the sweatiest garbage that you could possibly please, but there's also stuff ahead of it and behind it and afterwards that isn't grand tournament, that is still more or less Starcore. So you get the same experience, but you can also have the sweaty GT. That seems like a reasonable solution to me.
Is there an estimate on how long that round robin system would take?
Well, that entirely depends on how many teams there are. However,
Right.
if
The GT tends to attract a lot of not new teams, but a lot of people come up to the GT, don't they? Come out of the woodwork and stuff.
Yeah, because people like getting sweaty, so they will form a team of a bunch of veteran players, but haven't participated together in the entire season, so that way they can get bottom seeded and then try to bring out all the meme machines.
Well, it would be about 2 or 3 weeks. Much faster if I were to somehow, beyond a shadow of a doubt, be able to run more than one at once. Now, I've been very hesitant to do that after previous poor experiences, but the general experience of a lot of players has increased quite a lot, and there's a few things that I can do to fix it where, just sideways stuff like that exclamation point claim thing that only works on ships that aren't owned at least 1% by you, or even like 0.1% by you, if you have can use all terminals checked. Like just shit like that, automating shit like that would go a long way to allowing not just me to run tournaments and having more than one running at the same time, so we're not running for 6-7 weeks on a bunch of fights. We can do that 2 or 3 weekends.
If we do it as a round robin, then we don't have to run qualifications because seed's not going to matter. That cuts 2 weeks right there.
Yeah.
I can cut down registration and inspections to 1 week if everyone's on time. And if I'm allowed to smack people with a hammer. So we could squeeze it down to 4 weeks.
Yeah, or even less, depending the
Or even less, yeah.
because the active bottleneck there is just how many asses we can get into seats at any one time. Because right now that maximum is 8, with 8 waiting. If that was 16 fighting and 16 waiting, that'd go a lot faster.
Well, I'll be willing to pitch in. I can free up some more time if there's anything I can do to help make the GT happen. We'll get things squared away.
Yeah. So
Even if it's just paperwork or whatever. Okay.
the thing that I'm laser focused on is things that don't have a point and they feel bad. Those can go. Things that feel good but don't have a point, that just means, you know, they're not fitting the meta narrative. Just cut the list down after this week or the next, running scrims and stuff. So our major focus on the team here is just doing that and nothing else, and making sure every single weapon on the list is doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. In that case, we can go a lot further, because there was, and I'm not going to name names, there was an instance of a bunch of players deciding to keep some shit to themselves. And that was extremely disappointing to see. I don't know
the
why.
alternative. Why wouldn't they?
Well, maybe they would want to see like a decent tournament that doesn't have random garbage completely out of whack. That's just me.
Doesn't matter. They're gonna win. They're gonna have fun.
Yeah.
What was the thing they kept to themselves?
Hey, you know that thing that you found?
Which one?
The priest, the reskin doing way more damage than it should.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, there's multiple teams that knew about that for weeks.
Oh.
That is the shit that bothers me quite a bit. Not because it was broken or they wanted an advantage. It's kind of the two-faced approach of, you should have balanced and tested this, you should know everything, and then they find something and don't tell anyone.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that kind of stuff, and obviously I can't just implicitly trust that to be the case. So I need to make sure every single weapon is doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing, and have a shorter list, a lot shorter list.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I suggested that before, man. You just take like half the guns, the least popular ones, or just play Russian roulette with a fucking box of dice and just delete a load
Don't
of
you
guns.
worry, 60's on it.
Well,
Good.
Yeah, there's a few plans for that. The idea is
He's not here
to
right now,
split
but,
the difference between popularity and viability. Because if a weapon is hyper viable and better than anything else in this class, that means that stuff that would have been taken because you think it's cooler or feels nicer or, you know, fits your style better, you're not going to bring that, because why would you? That's the problem. So just splitting that difference.
I mean, you could probably do that right now, to be honest. You just group, if you went to the point sheet, looked at all the groups, you could probably take half of them and just go bam, bam, bam.
Yep, that's the idea, generally speaking. Yeah. So we have a plan and we have some solutions. So the general feeling is to run the TT, or not the TT, the GT, after doing, you know, casual stuff that the team is not involved in, as the team will be busy making sure that everything is the way it should be. And we can participate in whatever, but we won't be running them. Making sure that everything's fine. Reducing the weapons that are just not fun. That's the key. Just kill those. Anything that could be collapsed into multiple like groups of weapons, just collapse into one, do that kind of stuff, just reduce the list. Then run the GT after, what was it, 2 weeks, 4 weeks?
The GT doesn't even need to be as big. We don't need to do like qualifiers if we just wanted to do like a
a
2-week double elimination, make it shorter.
Totally.
Or the
depends
group
on how
round
many
robins.
teams.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
And as a plan Z, you can always just do a one pyramid or 2 pyramids of two brackets with single elimination, because that would be quick and dirty, and at least we'd have a GT, even if it wasn't.
Yep. I think that solution is probably the best. Because even if I don't like it, even if I just hate GTs, it doesn't really matter. I'm not the one flying. I'm the one making sure it happens. So let's make sure it happens.
Wiseman, do
He's
you
been
have the ground
confirmed.
core world?
Write down GT Lite TM.
Okay.
That I think is doable.
Yeah,
So
we'll
we're
need to
thinking 2
discuss
weeks or 4 weeks?
timetables.
2.
Two.
Oh, sorry. Before the GT being 2 weeks, or
From this point, right now, in time, how many weeks of casuals?
2.
2 weeks?
Back it.
2 more weeks.
4
Well, I
weeks
mean,
Yeah.
I
is
got
right
4
now.
things lined up.
So 4. We
Sorry.
can do 4. I was stalling so you could butt in.
Oh, I was busy sending you something in your DMs.
Yep, that's it.
4 from now?
Yep, 4 from now.
Okay. Well, yeah. We'll burn that bridge when we get there.
And yeah, if
The
you want me to say
bridge.
something, just mention me. Sorry.
Let's see. So we're looking at the 22nd of July.
Mm-hmm.
1, 2. So the 1st, the 8th, 15th, 22nd.
And
that'd be the 29th, wouldn't it?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. 4
it
weeks of
could be 3.
casuals.
Anomaly isn't 100% confirmed yet. Could be 3.
Unfortunately,
But,
we are not able to bend in such a way to fit everyone's schedules. So we have to reduce the. Ideally, it doesn't land on like July 4th or something.
no,
Oh,
I'm talking
no.
about like later July.
Yeah, there's no way
Are
it could
there
land on
any
the 4th.
holidays?
No, July 4th is in the middle of the week, dude.
Yeah, no,
It's
it's
like a Tuesday.
that should be fine. So if it's a 4 Saturday gap from now, not including the 24th. So the 1st, the 8th, casual, 15th, 22nd, casual, and the 29th.
And then the GT is planned to run another 2 weeks. It will end in August.
Somewhere around the 12th, maybe. So the idea would be at the 22nd, there's your full week of ahead of time in your submissions, but let's see, that's 1 week. Because ideally, we don't have any changes after the first week of casuals. And there's your 3 weeks of pre-build-up time. So to roll the preparatory time into the same space that the casuals are taking for time management.
Mm-hmm.
Aristeas suggesting something? By all means. Is your own chat saying 4 is probably the best idea?
He has a mic. Why doesn't he use it?
Stick each of the non-trivial items in that list right there. Closed discussion group.
Oh, that still exists, doesn't it?
Oh, this stuff?
So we got every single one of those that isn't like change value by 0.1.
Yep. I will be distributing this as usual after I've cleaned it up because right now the language is a bit not good.
Thank you. Because I know that it gets dumped in here, but literally no one checks that, so it'd be a lot funnier to read to you about it in the closed session group than forget that it exists after 2 seconds.
That should be fine.
So
Thanks.
schedule 4 weeks, 2-week GT of quick bracket, sweaty, disgusting, meta, fun, winner will have a mug airdropped to the roof or something.
Again with the mugs. Okay.
No, not really. I'll get something.
Yeah.
Something slightly less expensive to ship around the world, please. Thank you.
All right.
Less
so
fragile.
That
this
too.
setup right here of
Have the Americans win.
guaranteed 4 weeks of
The
fun,
Americans never win.
and then
Quiet.
2 weeks of sweaty garbage that might suck. Then that's it. Cut. Just run casual events from that point forward to when we start season 4 at a point where we're totally happy, everything's nice, nothing's broken, we don't have any broken shit. Then focus all of the let's change weapons energy into let's change the game part, like the game mode, like doing capture the flag, doing some more interesting stuff like respawning, doing like the battlefield capture stuff, like with the big carrier, more stuff rather than just here's a bubble, go fly into it and shoot the guy. Or failing, if nothing else, a better arena. You know, options. So that should be fine. And let's see, I don't think I put Hellfires anywhere on this list.
They're gonna be, yeah,
Fires should be hellfired.
into the fucking sun.
Anyway,
that is our setup. Now, does anybody have anything to say that has been pressing on them this entire time? The floor is yours.
Hey, does anybody want to help me do this? Holy shit!
So my internet killed itself.
Nate, one of those is going to be pod racing, and I just have
Hell
to
yeah.
get some help from a couple people.
I already reached out to Toomer, and he said he's willing to help you.
He said he's willing to help me, and then I asked him how he can help, and he's like, I don't know, but we'll figure it out. So
I mean,
push comes to shove, we'll do it the same way we did it last time, which is everyone fucking around and then us saying start.
Somebody spawning in a ship that looks vaguely like a pod racer, muzzled installing the rope mod. We relaunch the server. We start linking things up. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but
yeah.
Or no, it's Wiseman maybe. I
I
don't know.
would love to get it set up to the point where there's like some of the race servers, like quality of life, like checkpoints, and the.
But you did checkpoints with beacons, remember?
Oh,
No, I meant,
actually,
like,
I have something to say on that. Climb's friend or companion, someone he knows, found a community a little bit like Starcore, but the only thing they do is racing, like NASCAR racing. And,
They use wheels.
Yeah, they use actual wheels on voxels and shit. Wild, I know, but
by chance, can you send me that server link?
Today I will.
Later.
I mean, wheels work fine in small grid core.
So, anyway,
anyway,
the reason why I brought it up is that they have managed to get a proper like checkpointing system up, like Mario Kart and all that stuff, using either a server script or a program block. But Climb would definitely be the one to ping in Modders chat to see if you can pick his brain.
I'll ping him now.
So,
I guess.
Question.
Go ahead.
My internet killed itself during the part where we discussed speed curves. What is the general consensus on that again? Assuming we are doing a grand
I'm going to
tournament.
make muzzled, change it to 50 meters per second, and then I'm also going to make them fuck with the resistivity until it feels good.
But the extension to that is you're going to have 4 weeks of casual events where we're doing absolutely nothing but making sure that everything is kosher on our back end. So we're going to have some time.
Very nice.
Oh,
so it's like a big tournament with like 4 weeks of scrims and then fuck it, YOLO.
It's 4 weeks of events and sideshows like ground core, got pod racing, got
Star
rotatable
Wars.
Star
rotatable
Wars
3.
Yeah, there's some things in front that aren't necessarily related to the grand tournament. Yeah, they're not gonna be very competitive, but that's kind of the point, which is why I'm kind of on board with them. Is
y'all just want to chill out for a minute, remember that we're here to have fun by doing so, and then hopefully come into a grand tournament with things a little more balanced and us a little more chill.
Yeah.
All right, sweet.
That's the idea. And of course, this whole stream will be available on Twitch and YouTube if you want to go back through it and see what we actually said.
Make sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon.
So
Yes,
Spiral
like
appears to be
subscribe.
related to that racing server I was talking about, so you might want to ping him, Dorothy Nate.
Who is?
Spiral in this chat right
The new
now.
person.
Spiral. Oh.
Spiral.
Look at him go.
Yeah,
He's
greetings,
spinning.
Spiral. Welcome to Starcore. When did you join?
Why, hello.
You have my
Spiral, can you
condolences
hit
for
me
picking an
an
interesting
is-
time.
for that server?
This is the second time this week that I've seen somebody
Oh,
new.
they're one of the new pilots with the HMK.
Oh yeah.
Wait, what? I didn't know about this.
It's your team. I'm sorry.
Spirals with Flip One.
Oh, then again, I'm not a leader of it, but
No.
Anyway,
I do not care.
so
There you go.
aside from that, we were on the part where we asked, does anybody else need the floor for anything they'd like to say or discuss?
Kill apes. One laser PD is good.
That'll be looked at over the 4 weeks.
Also, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just wondering about the speed since I came in very late.
The
Everybody
speed was,
we just talked about the speed.
We understand
view-
the
I
fact.
got here late, man.
You can view it again.
Do this.
Okay. That's it.
Awesome.
Thank you for that.
Yep. That priority speaker button's pretty good.
That is a nice button.
Yeah, it's pretty based actually.
You just have it on all the time.
I think
Yeah,
Tate's
he
been
could.
spamming me with a paragraph here.
Oh, that's right. You scrolled past Tate's feedback and said
Yeah,
we'll come back to
that's
this.
right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We'll just
Oh,
skip
that.
that. Yeah, we'll start there.
I think
No.
yeah, right
Oh
here.
my god.
The tasty bit at the top.
No.
So
Yes.
all right. I hope
Mm.
everybody's ready for some incendiary bullshit. Oh look, Hack won yet another testament for spamming the haha goofy combo busted guns of the week. What a big surprise. Says no one ever. I'm sick and tired of seeing spam the flavor of the week to win teams that put me into the making mix loadouts and unique takes get their shit kicked in my teams who just spams the flavor of the week. It is not entertaining, it is not fun to be involved, and it leads to one of the most repetitive formats. See Hack winning for the haha funny guns repeatedly. That was one sentence. Next sentence. Another thing, if a mod refuses to nerf something that is clearly doing things out of line, take it over, eat it, fast way to streamline balance, and much better overall. Okay. I hope that after listening to Wiseman's discussion, this is a really fast way to get nowhere quickly. This isn't too targeted, but refusing to let people fit broken shit is not good for a community-based balance system. Like, good fucking god, can we stop letting things get buffed randomly by going to balls to the walls, tweaking by fucking 0.1 intervals instead of intervals of 10? Edit.
Wait, that sentence doesn't make sense. How do you overdo it by tweaking by 0.1 and but instead you suggest tweak it by 10?
No,
Opposite
it's tweak
of
it
that.
by 0.1 instead of 10.
Instead of 10. Okay.
Now the actual answer to that is monkey change number, shoot thing, no visible difference, change number bigger, shoot thing, no visible difference, and so on and so on and so on. So you just add a 0 instead of spending the next 40 minutes doing that. That's why that happens. Is it a good thing? No. Maybe it's time to throw season 3 into the fire, call it off, take a few months to take a break, and go to the balance your mind. Work from there. Since some mods are so chaotically balanced all over the place, it's better to just go from the ground up, pick 3 or 4 mod packs the medium want to see, and say to the mod, look, we need something new, balance for itself, and improve from there, and we'll just make transition smoother, more balanced in general. Heck, even just look into the mods that we have in direct control at May Starcore, TO and Nate, all of the invalid shit, Heavy Assault, Tate's Fletcher, and so on. Put a poll.
That's fucking deep.
Which of these would people like to see used at the start of season 4 or during the in-between seasons period? Another thing. This is its Tate's mod pack. I'm not sorry for what I said in regards to Spartan. I'm gonna leave that with a pregnant
Rule
pause.
1.
He doesn't seem to have taken it seriously. I do agree. We're in the main team for multiple reasons. So when you say something to somebody and say, no, I actually meant somebody else, perhaps you should have mentioned that beforehand. Quick summary of what I personally would suggest: increase the core team size, get rid of the super secret quiet place that leads to things being pretentious before you even think of pushing anything, get feedback from the community on major bids, things that changed to the Thanatos. If you ask for at least 4 people what they think before sending it to the live, you found that this fucking horrible idea should never be considered. Alright.
Alright.
No. You keep your mouth shut, Meld. As I'm also keeping my mouth shut. I had a lot of things on my tongue, but we're just gonna leave that in the air. I think I'll be sticking around, just not talking too much within Starcore to take a break so I can focus on preparing Fletcher to not be a possible problem from the fact that some guns are not yet conveyor orders.
You taking my lithium?
Can we look at the top paragraph in the next post?
What?
This one?
Yeah. It's a good counterpoint. I don't know. Just palate cleanser.
All right,
We already
counterpoint.
read that.
It's
Okay, I
toxic,
know.
I guess. It's
I-
personal attacks, blah blah blah. Although it's not wrong.
I do think there is some actual, completely false statements
This
in here.
is a third of what Tate has wrote in the Cybrand Discord general chat where the subs type.
Oh my god.
Yes, but there is some truth here.
There is some truth, which is
There
why
is
I'm
some
saying
truth.
to keep knee-jerk responses minimal. It's not helpful.
I have not banned or punished anybody for any of the offenses witnessed so far. I have been a good person. I will not get accused of deploying 1984 on everybody's face again.
So you want to know why the super secret quiet place exists?
Don't.
Diablo 4?
No, just it's not going to lead into anything good.
No. Like, I'll tell you one reason. It's so I can talk to people. That's it. That's the full statement. Because sometimes I need to talk with someone rather than having somebody come in out of left field scream about how their shields aren't coming up or something.
I think that's pretty clear.
Every time I've
Like,
talked
I'm
to
sorry.
her, like it might be you guys just like trying out another random ass Steam $5 Steam game.
Yeah, well, after we've been working for 12 hours on something, people join in and go, wow, these guys aren't doing anything. They're being super potential. Well, I put my head down for 16 hours straight. Yeah, I'm sorry, I want to play something. But there's nothing wacky going on in there other than, hey, where is this line? Yep. Hey, where's this line? Yep. It's just a workplace. I'm sorry if that came off differently.
I've sat in there with you guys and just watched hours and hours of you doing. We're not even talking. I'm just watching you guys change numbers on the screen, go shoot something, and every once in a while, Tibbs, go blow this up. Okay.
At the job, I'm just sitting there playing Star Citizen or something.
Now, to actually address this rather than just crying about it, here's a solution. Make it a public channel, but the only people that can talk in there are the people who can join it right now. There you go. If you want to join in, talk in the text channel, ask questions, watch what I'm doing, by all means. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. My only issue ever was that I need to actually focus on what I'm doing. And if the solution for making it less pretentious is to just, there you go, you can watch what I'm doing. You can listen to our conversations. There's no secrecy here aside from just, I just need some quiet place.
I can do that. That's easy.
If that's all that's needed, I don't see why not to do it.
I could literally take the regular quiet place, flip one switch on it, and you have that.
I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary.
Okay.
You could also just Twitch stream it if you wanted to, and just.
I don't want to. That's the thing.
Dude, his thing would be full of bots.
I think of everything we've heard tonight, that is the most nonsensical complaint.
Well, I was going to say turn on Twitch and then ignore it, but yeah.
That's
I've
just
had
my
multiple
opinion,
people
but
that were on the team before proudly declare to me that they would refuse to ever touch the quiet place because that is some... I didn't even remember what their reasoning was. I found it so baffling.
Hey, what'd you say? Kidding.
No, it wasn't Tate.
No.
Like, there's a bit of a perception difference here, and if I just need to work in public instead of in my little box, that's fine. I don't mind. Like, I don't mind if people watch me, that's fine. If I just need to sit in general chat and have myself deafened and muted, that's fine. Like, I'll do whatever is required. So long as things get done.
I don't think there's anything wrong with the quiet place, either of the quiet places.
Yeah.
Plus, you got to look at the ergonomics for you, right? Like, if you're just sat there in silence, muted and deafened, just reading code all day, that's going to be
what do you think I did for all of season 2 and most of season 3. Yeah, I agree. It wasn't very mentally healthy. And I do actually enjoy talking to people and explaining stuff that I'm doing. And hey, look at this thing. And like that one time Spartan suggested, yeah, why don't you add 500 damage? Okay, here's what 500 extra damage does. And you go, oh my god, Jesus. Like, I like doing that. I really enjoy doing that.
Yeah, enjoyment's important.
Yeah. There is a depressingly large incidence of people joining whenever I'm working, starting to stream some game and then loudly commentating every thought and feeling. And I get it. Can't have
I've been
everything.
trying to get better about that.
Well, it's just human nature. It's fine. So there's a bunch of solutions. Identified all the problems. We have a plan. I think we're mostly good to go. Unless we
Maybe
have
make
anything
it
else.
visible, but you can't join it.
I thought it was. Is it not?
No, it's never
No,
been.
there's a different one.
Yeah.
No, it's just there's.
Oh well, yeah. I
Can't
guess
see
there are
if
two.
anybody's in any of them.
Yeah, it's kind of weird what happened. There's the original Quiet Place,
Now I can
which
see.
just kind of became a hangout. And a shiphouse, and I realized, wait, we can't get any work done. I have to stare at code for 12 hours.
Then we made the stealth quiet place.
Yeah, equipped stealth armor.
Which was literally just earplugs in. The only reason I'm here is, you know, in case Clam needs to come in and say, no, dumbass, that's not how code works. He's actually very nice about it.
Yeah.
That's really all that it was. So, yeah. That needs to change, that's fine. If it doesn't need to change, that's fine. We go forward.
Yeah, weird stuff. Because working on Space Engineers requires pretty much 10 hours of silence.
Yeah. That's okay.
That sucks because you feel like, well, come on, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, where's my transparency kind of thing?
Yeah.
No, seriously.
All right,
people
so I
really
guess
want 'em.
I guess
yeah.
I can see the quiet place when somebody's there. It's just nobody ever uses it because I haven't seen anybody in there.
No,
Yeah, they're
because
always
we're
in
in the other
this
one.
Other one.
Like I said, I can just
Today I learned.
change that so that we could do what you just said.
ECM activated.
I don't know.
Mus, is the cutting down the number of guns definitely going to be happening and or looked at?
That's what I'm going to do right after I close the stream.
Cool. Is it on the list?
60 has put together a nice list, but I can write it down.
No, I mean your list of notes here, right here. Yeah.
Cut down. Focus on non-fun weapons. Non-meta weapons. Fun should be left. Overcooked stuff should be brought into non-overcut. There. That's more or less fine. I'll refine these notes into something that's actually presentable a little later.
So once you, not today because I'm going to be going to bed soon, but once you cut down the number, whenever it is you get around to cutting down the number of guns, be happy to make a list of outliers and take me a while.
Don't worry. It'll be good. What?
No audio.
I believe this.
It looks like an ad.
That I'm just gonna put this on screen here. Give me just a second to flip this over. That was pretty magical.
What should I do this time?